Hello, everyone. My name is Anton. I'm Partner Solution Architect with AWS IoT Services. Welcome to ESP DevCon 2023. In this talk, me and my co-presenter, Dhaval, will go through certain templates, certain advices, how you can build connected smart devices faster using several reference architecture that we put together with Espressif. Dhaval, can you introduce yourself?
Sure. Thanks, Anton. Hi, everyone. Welcome to DevCon. I'm Dhaval. I'm an engineer at the application frameworks in Espressif, and I work on a lot of products with AWS and Espressif together.
Um, okay. So I will not be on screen because my camera and my presentation cannot coexist, but you pretty much have seen my face. So as I mentioned, the partnership between Espressif and AWS started pretty long ago. Literally from the moment that we announced AWS IoT service, which is in 2015. And since then, we have quite significant amount of customers. These are not all Espressif customers, but I will give it to you to identify which one actually using ESP chipsets. There are quite a few on this slide. As I mentioned, 8 years ago, this partnership started with a humble call with the CEO of Espressif. And since then, basically the ESP8266 being overturned by the several families of ESP32, and at the moment, all the ESP32 chipset can be connected to AWS IoT Core. In AWS, we're looking into when we're looking at the new IoT projects, we typically categorizing it into two categories. Either our customer looking for some new ways to get the revenue, or they're doing and basically increasing operational efficiency through the predictive maintenance, analytics, the sensory field primarily in the industrial setting, but also logistic, automotive, and many other verticals. Revenue growth. This is typically new startups, just like you, the developers that bringing a new idea and developing completely new classes of products. So I will not be going through all of the slides in detail, but in AWS, we're providing quite a number of IoT services. Again, it's all started with just the hyperscale broker, MQTT, HTTPS, and WebSocket broker. And through the years, additional services being announced from the device side, from the connectivity side, but also from the analytics and streaming services. For example, if you're building a doorbell, take a look at Amazon Kinesis video streams, right? If in this talk, we will primarily concentrate on the device software and a little bit of the connectivity control plane. So when you're building connected devices, to streamline your work, AWS offer a number of kind of templates or blueprints or reference architecture. If you're using FreeRTOS, we're providing a set of connectivity, device management, security, and or update libraries. AWS Express Link is complete packaged connectivity module that you can retrofit your non-connected design or create completely new offering using application MCU or application processor, and supplement it with Express Link module. If you're building the embedded Linux devices, you can use the Greengrass, and on both MCU and NPU, you can use the CSDK if you want to build, let's say, bare metal devices. At the foundation of our offerings, and also it's kind of like a match made in heaven with ESP32. ESP32 adopted FreeRTOS pretty early, and FreeRTOS, it's one of the oldest and most robust real-time operating system. Started over 18 years ago. For more comprehensive talk on the internals of FreeRTOS, please listen to Richard Barry talk, who is the original author and also senior principal engineer at AWS right now, basically overlooking the development of the FreeRTOS kernel. In addition to the kernel, as I mentioned, we're offering the connectivity, security, and device management libraries. All these libraries are open source, licensed with MIT permissive license, so you don't need to worry about any royalty payment or anything like this. If you would like to use those core libraries, let's say with your MQTT broker, you're welcome to do that as well. Some of the libraries obviously tightly coupled with AWS services, for example, something like Device Defender. Over their update, I would say it's pretty tightly coupled with our cloud offering as well. But let's say HTTP MQTT library, you can use it with any MQTT compatible broker. What we've done also for the last 3 years, we created a reference, featured reference architecture, featured reference integration, we call them, that allow to utilize the best practices, pretty much to springboard your project even more, right? So, for example, that security becoming not the afterthought, but becoming an integral part of your design since very beginning. Dhaval, do you want to tell a little bit about the feature reference integration?
Sure. So as you said, we already had this, but the CSDK was split up into individual examples. And for customers to build a production application, they had to start from those individual examples. So we thought, let's put everything together and give a better production-ready example or a starting point that people can build on top of. And it includes solutions for things like real-world use cases for MQTT or Wi-Fi disconnects, or the best security practices. So typically, as you said, security becomes an afterthought, and then you have to change your architecture. But if you start with this as your starting point, you need not have to refactor any of those aspects because it's built into the design itself. One thing I wanted to mention is, while the name currently includes the C3, the design and the repository itself is now applicable for all of the Espressif SoCs that have Wi-Fi. And it's in the process of being renamed, but this works out of the box with any Espressif SoC.
So I'm at the moment I'm flashing the a reference design code that I would be able to control LED on ESP32C3 board. And basically, as you see, the code is flashed, acquiring the IP address. Okay. So if I will switch right now to, and let's say publish a message with to turn the LED off, turns LED off. I have a couple additional projects to show. If we will have a time, maybe at the end of the show, I will show, let's say, a project with a color sensor. So, but overall, it's a pretty great starting point, as you notice. And if you will go to the this link, you can and get the any ESP development kit. You can start pretty much very quickly, and as I said, with a pretty great level of confidence that your project utilizes best practices. Right. Let's continue with the presentation. So for all the connectivity libraries, we have a long-term support. Obviously, we're developing the code much faster, but for the 2 years, you have a confidence that we're going to be backporting any security patches, any performance patches to the LTS branch of the libraries. And if you need even longer support, this is unfortunately the paid subscription. But if you need a long-term support over 2 years, you can subscribe to the extended maintenance plan, which will allow you to get those patches to your firmware for basically 10 years. Another possibility, another option to build product is to utilize what we announced a couple of years ago, and it's called AWS IoT Express Link. So AWS IoT Express Link is the pre-programmed modules from Espressif in this case, and I can show these are the modules as they coming in a tape, and you can basically you can retrofit your existing product with your existing host MCU with these modules, and the modules running a firmware that allowing them to be claimed into your AWS account pretty seamlessly, and also you controlling these modules using the using AT command set. So think about it as a cloud modem per se. Again, the all security, all device management over the air update is done for you. And I have a at the end of this section, I will also show the another demo using the Express Link. But going back to the presentation. So Express Link, as I mentioned, allows to utilize any type of microcontroller, including 8-bit microcontroller, if you're running such design at the moment, and make it into modern cloud connected product. So the development and also deployment is pretty quick, and I would say the level of security that that these models offer is pretty great as well, because you can use any contract manufacturer, because the root of trust already burned on the Espressif production lines. There are nothing. I mean, contract manufacturer will not be able to extract these crypto materials from your design. If you want to run completely robust, completely bulletproof, you need to encrypt the UART encryption between the module and your host processor, or you can encrypt your payload and do the decryption at the cloud side. I would say that a dozen of AT commands becoming more and more as we're introducing more functionality to the Express Link. But again, it's pretty intuitive how you can develop your product using these modules. And this is basically a minimal example that allow you to send a very simple message to the cloud. As you can see, pretty it's very, I would say, easy to understand. As I mentioned before, underneath of under the hood, pretty robust implementation, and we collaborating. Our service team and Espressif collaborating to make sure that any issues is addressed as quickly as possible. Typically, for the devices that already in production, that already deployed in the field, you can do pretty non-intrusive over-the-air update. We guarantee that over-the-air update would be successful. And for the experimentation, you can run also over-the-wire updates and get the latest and greatest before you will deploy your design to the field. So currently we have very high level of interest. I would be honest, there are obviously not too many customers yet that build a product with Express Link, but it's basically the number of customers that building the production products with Express Link is increasing. As I mentioned, to get started, you can get the Express Link development kit available at pretty much major retailers, including Amazon, Moser, DigiKey, and so on and so on. You can get it from AliExpress, Espressif store. A development kit as well is the board at the very top here. You can run the Express Link demo badge hands-on workshop. The design of this badge is also open source, so basically you can order it from the PCB manufacturers. And finally, I will show a demo with STM32 host MCU. ST created an entire cube package, so you can start even easier than basically coding every single command. So I will quickly show this on the overhead. So this is kind of a contraption that consists of host MCU, Espressif Express Link module, and the sensor shield on top. So what we can do, we can switch to so it's currently sending the temperature, humidity, and IMU values to the cloud, and I can basically show you in the Chrome. This is the basically these values going into the time stream database, which is our AWS time series database that you can utilize for your designs, and then basically visualized with Grafana. But you can build. I will touch it a little bit later, but you can utilize AWS Amplify. But even better, you can use the ESP Rainmaker product to basically build a complete solution with Express Link, Rainmaker backend, which subsequently utilizes the AWS services. And Rainmaker allows you to build very quickly mobile and web responsive application. So not only visualization, but you can build the entire control plane with that. Okay, back to the presentation. Yeah, so you see that the values is I mean, I can probably put my vapor a little bit, and you can see that humidity level should increase. Yeah. Anyway, so let's talk a little bit about the services that AWS offer from the connectivity standpoint. The oldest and most comprehensive service is obviously AWS IoT Core. AWS IoT Core is kind of hyperscale MQTT and other protocol broker. It also has a very sophisticated rule engine that allows you to ingest and transform and redirect the messages that coming from your devices to virtually any backend, whether it's database or S3 object storage, or let's say Kinesis stream. And it also has a device shadow. This is concept that AWS pioneered. It allows you to communicate with device that, let's say, if your device going into the deep sleep mode and you would like to control that device, it's without shadow, it's pretty difficult task. But with the device shadow, you're interacting with the shadow representation of the device, and the moment device waking up from the deep sleep mode, it's actually reconcile the state, the device state, with my desired state that I'm sending from, let's say, my mobile device, or from my responsive web application, or from, let's say, automated API control plane. And also, AWS IoT Core is an identity service. We recommending, while we do have another options right now through the extended authorizers to connect to AWS IoT Core, but a typical recommendation that you're going to be connecting through TLS 1.2 with mutual certificate authentication. That's the most secure way, and it basically ensures that the server cryptographically authenticate your device, and the device cryptographically authenticate the identity of the service, of the broker, I would say. When we started AWS IoT service, we thought that, well, hyperscaling MQTT broker gonna be enough, but we've been actually pretty far from the truth, because the moment you start deploying a fleet of devices of thousands, and we have several customers that have millions of devices, it's becoming impossible to manage those without device management services. So we offer a pretty comprehensive device management services that can partition your fleet of devices. You can do the rolling over the air update. You can do a partial over the air update. The registry of devices is pretty comprehensive, and the registry allows you to store a static and also dynamic attributes. So think about it. If you would like to control your robotic vacuum, or if you would like to do the over-the-air update to your robotic vacuum, probably want to do it in the middle of the night and making sure that the device is not in a working cycle. Let's say my dynamic attribute should be, let's say I'm at the charging base. This is probably the best way to do the over-the-air update for such device. Pretty comprehensive fleet indexing and search. And as I mentioned before, the beauty of AWS is that you can kind of try all these services using AWS console, but the most powerful way is to use it through API call. So you can create a completely automated backend and tailor it to your, I would say, your project specific needs. And let me emphasize one more time that in fact the ESP Rainmaker is a great starting point, because underneath it uses majority of AWS services, some of from AWS set, and also some serverless like Lambda and S3, and it allows you to springboard your backend design if you are not familiar with AWS, but it's completely non-intrusive because you can route your messages to any of AWS services, even those that let's say ESP Rainmaker is not using. Dhaval, do you want to tell a little bit more about Rainmaker and how the project started and evolved?
Sure. So we have been looking at IoT for a while, right? And one of the things that we constantly heard about was the pain points that our customers had with creating their own IoT cloud platforms. And a lot of the solutions that were out there were centralized, and the deployments were out of the control of the customers themselves. So we thought we can create something that is going to help hobbyists and professional users and large customers alike. And that's how Rainmaker came out to be. So let me talk a little bit about what it does and what it includes. So it's a complete cloud platform, which includes an open source device firmware, open source phone application, the cloud backend, and voice assistants, which are integrated into it. Uh, and the interesting thing about Rainmaker is that it gets deployed in your AWS account. It's not like you're using our deployment for it. Of course, there's a public deployment that's available for testing things out, but the final deployment would be in your own AWS accounts. And because of the way it's made, it remains extremely customizable. You can extend it the way you would like, and it does not touch the rest of the things. So you can route the data, as you rightly said, wherever you need. And because it's built on top of AWS serverless architecture, scalability, security, the cost effectiveness, and the extensibility are a part of the package.
Thank you. And I want to stress out that it's not only one thing that I really like about Rainmaker is that it's really cost effective, in a sense that in fact Espressif run a numerous performance tests and also a numerous there was a numerous adjustment. We've been actually collaborating quite often during the development cycle to make sure that ESP Rainmaker appealing not only for very expensive devices that basically the cost of connectivity is negligible comparing to the cost of device, but to the devices something like a light bulb, right, which you cannot get a tremendous revenue out of it. But through the years, ESP Rainmaker refined to the point that it uses a set of AWS services that is really cost effective for various customers, right? For example, we Espressif utilizes at the moment the over-the-air update that is not uses the AWS over-the-air update. We in negotiation maybe it would be next service that ESP Rainmaker will adopt. But again, it was a discussion, and basically Espressif was very customer obsessed in this sense, saying that the cost of AWS over-the-air update is prohibitive to a number of our customers. If some customers want to utilize this over-the-air update using MQTT control plane, great. But we're using basically the over-the-air update that we developed, and it's much cheaper, I would say, because the MQTT over-the-air update is metered by MQTT message, right? So last thing I want to touch is how you can identify the threats to the fleet, to your device fleet, and you can utilize AWS IoT Device Defender for that. For example, and Device Defender, it's kind of there are literally like two products to it. You can use it completely on a cloud side and derive your metrics that coming to the cloud. But if you want to use a device metrics, it's also a possibility to publish those metrics, get it from the device and publish it to the cloud, and basically make a decision using this enhanced data set. But even utilizing the cloud side, what you can do with Device Defender, you can, for example, identify if my certificate been used by, let's say, multiple devices. Typically, a good threshold is you allow connectivity of two devices because, let's say, you would like to test your device, let's say some issue with particular device. But obviously, if somebody cloning, if somebody somehow get possession of the private key and cloning a device, you can basically block those devices very easily, or just raise the red flag and investigate. Your security team can investigate what's happening. The another interesting metrics is when your device sending, let's say, sensory data that doesn't make sense. So what you can do, you can train a simple machine learning model that will capture a typical sensory values through the, let's say, winter period, spring period, summer, and so on. And if my sensor is deviating from the normal area or normal values, combined sensor fusion values, I can also red flag it to the security team and identify if somebody, let's say, screwing with certain devices. It's probably less interesting for consumer products, but it's very critical for our industrial customer, automotive customers, where it's basically safety critical applications. So for that, take a look on the Device Defender. It's pretty comprehensive set of services, and I would say pretty well executed. So to summarize, if you would like to build a connected product, I think definitely take a look at AWS IoT. The most important reason is that all our regions allows you to scale almost from one device to the million device without doing any extra work. So basically, it's a managed service, and we're managing capacity. We literally servicing like billions of connections and trillions of messages at some of our regions. We also looking and communicating with our customers. So basically, AWS always building the new services with the features that have been requested by our customers. We are not deviating. We are not building services just for the sake of like creating something new. It's pretty much the roadmap is 80% drive by the customers. Security is our number one, if not number zero priority. So it's very important aspect, and with the majority of government right now demanding a very tight security for end devices, basically you get covered with reference integration with Express Link, and on the back end we offering probably best-in-class security and device management. Also, some of our customers, when they starting this journey and they're getting very excited at the beginning, and then they looking that this cost is soaring, please talk to us, because if your bill is not reasonable, most likely you're doing something wrong. As I said, you can use ESP Rainmaker as a starting point. It's fantastic starting point, and the licensing is very straightforward, and it utilizes. It's very cost-effective utilization of AWS services, allowing you to build very modern backend and control application for your smart devices. With that, I will let Dhaval to conclude this talk as well, and I would be happy. I mean, we would be happy to answer any question if you have those. Dhaval, any last remarks?
No, I think you did a great job introducing all of the AWS services which are available. And we talked about how the reference architecture gives you a great starting point if you want to build your own applications on Espressif devices. And for those of you who still have microcontrollers that aren't connected, there is the Express Link solution that makes it extremely simple to get started with making connected devices and using AWS IoT. And even for AWS IoT, for the usage is simplified even further by using a managed product like Rainmaker, which is based on top of the AWS serverless architecture. And it still remains extensible, so you can continue to add things on top of that if you would like. So the product remains customizable. And you mentioned Device Defender and a few other AWS products that make it extremely cost-effective, secure, and a great way to connect your IoT devices. And yes, we are open to any questions.
Yeah, I wish we would have a little bit more time, because it's literally impossible to jam all of the information into the 40 minutes. But We want to be respectful for the DevCon agenda. So if you have any questions, we'll be happy to answer.